Welcome to the Roots of Rhythm. This is episode 2. My name's Mike Menza.
And I'm Tyler Anselmo.
And we're about to talk about a lot of stuff today.
You don't even know.
This dude is unreal. I mean...
I'm not real. I'm phasing through here at this moment.
He knows so much. He has so much knowledge and so much passion about this stuff. And we're going to talk about a few things that mean a lot to Tyler, mean a lot to me. And so I guess I'll start off. Tell us how you got into guitar. Like, what was the first where you were like, man, this is me.
Something feels like something.
Yes, something feels like something.
Yeah. I mean, it started, I was probably about 15 years old, 15 years young. And my whole family's pretty musical. My dad's a musician. He's a songwriter, piano player, drummer. My mom sings, plays guitar. And when I was 15, they said, "Hey, do you want to play something?" You know, because from a young age, when let me start here. I was 4 years old, and my great grandmother bought me a chime set. You know what chimes are, right? It's
yeah,
little metal pipes, right, with the hammers. And it was 8 chimes, and it was a C major scale. On one side of the chimes, it said C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The other side, it said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there was a little book, and it was, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and those kind of songs. And I was able to figure out that the numbers were the same thing as all the white keys on a piano. So I started to learn that stuff, and they saw me playing at 4 years old. They're like, how, what's going on? How's he doing this? Anyway. I started taking piano lessons. Didn't want to learn how to read music. I just wanted to play.
Right.
Which I'm kicking myself in the ass for nowadays, that I didn't stick with that and learn how to read at a very young age. But anyway, yeah, when I was 15, they were like, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to play the drums." And they said, "No, we don't have the room for a drum set." I was like, "All right, well then I guess guitar." My uncle.
They didn't want you to hear you banging on drums till 2 in the morning.
Exactly. and listen, my uncle, he taught me so much. He gave me my first guitar. I love him to death. He was one of the reasons why I started playing too, and I was like, all right, I guess guitar. So he gave me my first guitar. It was a Frankenstein guitar. It was hot pink.
Oh, that's crazy!
It was hot pink with black duct tape all over it.
Yes.
One pickup, one humbucker, one knob, and a Kramer neck. And I learned how to play guitar on that, and that's kind of how I started. And
Van Halen swag.
Yeah, I mean, even though I wasn't into that or really knew how to do any of that stuff, it was just something to practice on. And then then I kind of the next year, 2 years, I started playing acoustic guitar a lot. And when I was in high school, John Mayer's first album had just come out. Dave Matthews was really big. 311, Incubus. I would learn those songs. And I have an okay voice. I could sing them, and it got me the girls. That's kind of why I started. Pretty much.
There you go.
Pretty much.
Tell the truth.
Hey, you know what? It is what it is, man. That's kind of why I did it, and I started to get better and better, and I was getting pretty good. And
so, what was the first artist that was man, I want to play like that, or I want to play that music?
100%.
Yeah,
mostly as most people.
Oh yeah.
My introduction to kind of the blues. I knew some Hendrix songs and some Clapton songs. Everybody learned "Sunshine of Your Love" or "Cocaine" when you're first learning electric guitar.
Oh yeah.
But again, when I was we were talking about this earlier. When I was I think I was 15, I got into a really, really bad car accident.
Yeah.
And I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. I was on crutches for 2 years. So I was just nothing. I was a sophomore in high school. Yeah. And couldn't go to school.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it sucked, And I was super depressed. And I was just sitting there in my wheelchair with my acoustic guitar. And my mom was like, "Here, I think you would like this." And this is, now I'm going back to dating myself a little bit, back to the early 2000s. And she gave me Texas Flood on cassette by Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yes.
And I listened to that, and I was just like, holy shit. How does anybody play the guitar like this that well?
With that much feeling.
The feeling, the ferocity, never hitting a wrong note.
Never.
Never once. I've never heard.
He never did.
Even
And his
breaking
action
strings,
was like this high.
and he's using 14 or bass strings basically to play the guitar. And I was at that point I was hooked. I was like, I want a Strat for my next birthday or Christmas or whatever it was, and I got a purple Strat, a purple sparkly Strat for my next like birthday, whatever it was.
Yes.
And I just dug in, man, and I looked
Heck
up
yeah.
everything I could find on him. Everybody that he listened to, that he idolized, Albert King, all the Kings, Albert King, Freddie King,
All
B.B.
the
King, all of
Kings.
them, you know, the old guys. I was just hooked, and I was like, there's nothing like this feeling when you're playing to something like that. The butterfly kind of like heroin-esque, kind of like
Yes. It's like it moves something in you that like you never felt before. Like before then, I didn't know what that feeling was, you know. And when you try to play it, like Stevie, it's like then when you pick it up, you're like try to play. You can't just copy Stevie. You have to go back and look at Albert King. You got to look at, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that's where he got this from, you know. And I think that was the hardest part for me. I remember I was similar to you but I was a little older. Like I had guitars around my whole life. You know, my father did vintage guitars,
right.
but like when I went to college, I don't know if you had this stage where it was like you locked yourself in your room, you just played for hours and hours.
I had a mirror, like a door-sized ceiling to floor mirror. I would just stand there and just play in front of it.
Yeah.
And I'd watch my fingers, like, all right, what am I doing here? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? But yes, I have been.
You become obsessed, and then your friend's like, "Come on, man, let's go to this party or let's do this." And then you're like, "No, I got to learn this.
good.
I got to learn this."
I'm good.
Yeah, that's the way I was. It was obsessive, but like you catch that bug, and I can't quite explain it. Like, but you know what I'm talking. Yeah,
There's nothing like it, and it is true. It's super true. I mean, my friends, even when you're in your late teens and like your first friend gets his license and it's like all we want to do is drive around and hang out. And
yes.
whatever. I always had my Strat in my hand. Even I'd be in the back of the car because I always had to sit in the back because I had the guitar, so I was never shotgun. But I'd be in the back of the car. I don't care what time of year it was, if it was winter or something. The window was open on the driver's side. My headstock was sitting out the side, and I was just noodling around, just constantly. And with a Strat, I mean, throw that thing off the goddamn roof. It's gonna
Yeah,
so it didn't
exactly.
matter. So yeah, I would always had the guitar in my hand, always.
And I feel like when you're blue, it's like one of the few things that could lift you out of that. Like people think of the blues as like, oh, this sad thing, and it's really such an uplifting thing. And I think Stevie Ray Vaughan was the first guy that made you feel that, or for me anyway. You know what I mean? Like it just like kind of. And then when I dug into everybody else, I understood B.B. King and Albert King and all these people, and I think it's once you understand where it comes from, you really feel it too. You know what I mean? Like you went through all that, the accent and everything, and like I feel like coming out of that, like that helped you, become who you are and love. Like it's almost like there's things that happen in the universe to guide you in a direction.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's what happened to a lot of those artists.
It's such a hardcore inverse. Like what they call it the blues and like what they're singing about and what they're playing about and all that. But again, it's this really hardcore inverse in kind of like just our reality, like experience as human beings, where it's almost, nothing is like that. Where it's like you're singing about something it's so down, it's so like my life is terrible. This is what's going on. But when you're doing it, the feeling that you get, again, nothing comes close to like shooting you into the fucking atmosphere. Like,
Yep.
wow.
That's why I love this kid right here. You get it.
And any guitar player who's ever taken it seriously, and I've known a handful in my life, that have really, and you're one of them, that like really honestly get that. And I have a couple of other people that I know, again, like my uncle, my friend Sean.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to keep naming names, but because I don't want to leave anybody out. But it is true. It's like it takes you from here and it brings you way up here, and there's nothing. I don't care what drug you take. I don't care what you're doing. There is nothing like when you're. And again, it's a cliche and a stupid term, but when you're hitting the note
Yup.
To quote the Allman Brothers, when you're hitting the note, there is nothing that comes close.
Yes. That's the thing. No drug can compare to the feeling you get from music. I think people get that twisted too. You know, it's like when you're doing what you love, that's what brings you to the highest reality, I guess.
It's a
You
good
know.
thing, Mike. I mean, listen, not to get like super dark, but I had my demons with drugs, and again after the accident, right? They were pumping me full of painkillers.
Mm-hmm.
I was 16. Not that I was trying to go out and get them; they were just giving them to me.
Yeah.
And that leads to other stuff, you know. And doing that other stuff, like I remember the first time I did a gig when I was like back kind of up on my feet, and I was high while I was playing. I felt like fucking Eric Clapton. Like nobody could touch me.
Yeah.
Like on the fucking planet.
You're
Nobody even
floating.
came close. Yeah, because you get that it's that extra boost. It's like, oh, I'm soloing great, awesome. I'm feeling good. Then I got the drugs in you, but once I got sober a couple of years later, and
good for you, brother.
It was still better, just the straight up high from the guitar than anything I've ever done.
Amen.
It's wild.
That's
there's nothing to compare it to. There really isn't.
That's beautiful, man. I really that it's inspiring that you went through that and came out of it and telling people that you don't need that to be.
You don't.
Right?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Amen.
Yeah. And at the time too, I was like, well, Eric Clapton did it, so and Jimi Hendrix did it, so
yeah, exactly.
Why shouldn't I do it?
I feel you.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people passed away from it, and one person who didn't pass away from it, who we both love, and actually Tyler really opened more doors to this person for me, was Jeff Beck. And
Untouchable.
dude, I always loved Jeff Beck. And I always thought that he was so unique. Like, there's no other guitar player. You can't be like, oh, this guy sounds like Jeff Beck. You can't sound like
No,
Jeff Beck. It's Jeff Beck, you know? Like, you just can't. So
I 100% agree.
I was like, so I always knew, like, the bigger tunes, and Tyler's like, Mike, you just need to sit down and listen to all of Blow by Blow. I'm like, I've saw so many live things, and like,
No,
I know a couple of them off Blow by Blow. He's like, no. I want you to learn them, and I want you to know the chords, and I want you to come to the jams and know them and play them with me. And I can't thank you enough for doing that for me. What does Jeff Beck mean to you? What was the first time you got tied in by Jeff Beck? How did that happen?
So basically, George Cintron, who he was my kind of guitar mentor growing up, family friend. He's phenomenal guitar, like wildly good. When I kind of started really getting into electric guitar and playing lead and stuff, I went to George and I was like, teach me, just teach me. And he had a couple of students and he teaches and everything. And he plays with like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He plays with every rock orchestra band, the Eagles, Led Zeppelin. And whenever you see like, the Eagles orchestra, he's the guy playing guitar.
Really?
On all of them. Yeah. All of them. Like literally all of them. The dude's nuts. But he's like, we're going to transcribe Blow by Blow, song by song. And I was like, what is that? And he's like, it's a Jeff Beck album. And I was like, okay. And like, any kind of guitar player, who Jeff Beck is, but you don't really
dig in deep.
You're not, because he's not.
He's hard to dig in deep to.
Because it's
difficult.
It's a little bit out there. It's a little more fusion. It's not straight like blues or straight rock.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different. But he's like, trust me. Like, we're gonna go through every song. We're gonna learn every song, and you're gonna thank me when we're done. And I couldn't thank him enough, honestly. After we were done, but yeah, he turned me on to Blow by Blow, which is his first solo album. He played with the Yardbirds first, and then
right.
In 1974 he records Blow by Blow. It's released in 75.
Is that the Beck group, or was
it's just called? I don't know if they call.
I know he had a couple of them. Yeah.
Like Blow by Blow is the first one, and then I believe it's Wired is the second.
Yep,
one.
Wired. Yep.
And those are like the two that he really turned me on to, but it was Blow by Blow. because when you listen to that album, it's just like, holy shit, like nobody plays like this.
No one.
Nobody. And you really said it best. Like, he's impossible to mimic. He's impossible to copy. And I really think he's the only guitar player. When you think about all those old classic greats, like, you know, you got Clapton, you got Jeff Beck, you got, you know, Keith Richards, you got Pete Townsend, and all these dudes, right? You know, he is the only guy that continuously got better and better and, like, evolved as a player. And Clapton did that for a while. Like, you have the Blues Breakers, right? It's raw. It's hardcore cream. It's a little more structured, but it's still raw.
It's raw.
And you get 80s Clapton, and then and then it's like
it's almost like different people.
Yeah,
like
and then it's
almost like a different human. Like, you know, it's amazing.
And then it's just Clapton for the rest of time, right? He's playing the same way since the 80s. But like Jeff Beck, like from the 70s, late 60s, even when he did the Yardbirds, through when he passed away, his style just kept evolving and changing from using a Les Paul and a pick to a Telecaster with humbuckers to a Strat, and then using just his fingers, and then using the whammy bar to, like, he would like bend up before he hit the note, and then use the whammy bar to bend it back down. It was just like wild.
It's like he almost pulls the note out of the guitar. Yeah. It's like I can't even really explain it. It's like, he's using every finger, it's just like
the whole guitar. He's using the whole guitar.
It's almost like, you know, this dude, like, and you know, when we practice and you get into it, I think, but this dude, you know, he sat there for hours and I was like, this guy didn't like, oh, you have a gig and you play and you go home and drink beer. No, I think this guy stayed up all night after a gig or all day and just went, you know, he created a new map on the guitar. You know what I'm saying?
He wasn't mimicking anyone.
Right.
He was like, I'm going to do my own thing.
Yes.
And like, he figured it out, which is so hard to do. I mean, nowadays it's even more hard to do because everybody's kind of almost on everything. But back then it was just like, this is how you play.
It was like magic.
It's wild. It really was. I mean, there's again, you said it again earlier. I can't say it any better. Like, nobody can mimic him. Nobody can copy him. And listen, I play "Cause We Mended His Lovers" so often. When I ever go out, people call it "Cause We Mended His Tyler," because it's just a song that, like, we know we're gonna do. Because I love playing that song because it's such a great song to play to. Just the chord changes, the feel, the soul, like whatever. But even I can't. As many times as I play that song, I still can't sound like him. You just not even close.
It's him, and you know. He's so unique, and everybody I feel like's played with him, and he's been on so many records. You know, I was watching a thing about Superstition. It was so cool. Like, Stevie Wonder wrote the tune, but Jeff Beck.
He also wrote "Cause We Mended His Lovers." Stevie Wonder.
Yes, they had a relationship.
There's words to that song.
It's so interesting, like that. Those two guys, like, so he basically, Jeff Beck played on one of Stevie Wonder's records, and he loved him. And he was like, listen, he's like, in trade of playing on my album, he's like, I want to give you Superstition. And he's like, and Jeff's like, oh my God, this riff, you know, he was just a dork like us, like, this is so sick. Yeah. And he records
like Willie Dixon doing the Muddy Waters tune. That's a riff right there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just like, wait, that's the coolest thing I ever heard. So he goes and records it on his album, and Jeff had a delay to the album. And, oh man, I forget the guy's name, but whoever was producing Stevie Wonder's record, he was like...
Well, George Martin produced...
Was it George Martin?
He produced Blow by Blow.
So okay.
It was like those earlier mid-70s. Like, it's probably George Martin.
It may have been George Martin. He's like, he's like, Stevie's like, you got to put that. That's going to be a hit record. Like, and you know, Jeff knew it. He's like, I know that riff. That's going to be a freaking hit record. Well, get this. So Stevie records it later. And then Stevie releases it sooner because Jeff Beck's album got delayed by a few months. So it comes out. Stevie's is a big hit. And then 2 months later, Jeff's comes out. He's like, you know, but which is amazing. If you listen to it, it's freaking amazing.
But, you know, his fan base was never gonna blow
It's-
him up into stardom. I mean, he was already famous, but
Yeah.
it's not like it's not like Stevie Wonder with songs in the key of life or any of that stuff that's like this guy's a world phenomenon. Jeff Beck's known to guitar players mostly. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know really who he is.
But you know what? He had that ear. You know what I'm saying? He had that ear when he knew that something was special, and he knew that was going to be a hit. And that's how you know he's listening for something unique. He's listening for something that's going to move him, and he'll find people that he knows is going to be a star. I mean, he pulls people all day long. Like you see these
Tal
people,
Wickenfeld. She was like
right?
20 years old, playing at the Crossroads Festival with him. She's this Australian girl. She's like 18, 19, on tour with Jeff Beck, and
She was badass.
Unreal. She's
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Unreal.
That chick, man. And it's just like, I love the guy, and it's just sad that he's gone. I just feel like, wasn't he like a health guy? Was he? He was
I think he died from meningitis.
Yeah.
So it was just like one of those kind of.
but he was a healthy guy, and so
he
like,
wasn't like a drug user.
No.
Or anything. Yeah, he just happened to.
that's
I
what's,
think kind of just catch the shit into the straw, kind of a thing. But
well,
hey, he did plenty in his time.
he did.
As long as you can say like, oh, he died in his prime. I mean, the dude he put out, I think it was 15 albums just by himself,
Yeah.
and like every one of them has a banger on it. Again, those first two, Blow by Blow and Wired, are just crazy good. Like there's not one. Well, Diamond Dust isn't great on Blow by Blow, but there's maybe one bad song on the two of them. But yeah, you can't say like the guy didn't make his mark.
Oh, he made his mark, and I want to play We Ended as Lovers
You wanna
right
play
now.
We Ended
You
as
want to hear Ended as Lovers? Let's do it. Yeah, me and Tyler love playing this tune together. We'll do a little sneak peek of it, but
Actually,
we might get a little carried
before we
away.
get into it, there is a funny story I do want to.
Oh, yeah, go
I
ahead.
do want to mention about Jeff Beck. where,
Definitely.
I think it's either Pete Townsend or Mark Knopfler, I think, tells this story where they say, this is how I knew Jeff Beck was the greatest guitar player alive. It was when he was with the Yardbirds,
Yeah.
and they were playing like some small little pub or whatever, and Jeff Beck had the guitar like this, like he was soloing kind of like this, like straight up. And he was in the middle of his solo, and he was doing trills, kind of like a, like that thing.
Yeah,
And he was letting the guitar slide down half step by half step with one hand while he was lighting a cigarette with his other hand, and just letting the guitar fall like this.
Oh,
He
my.
was like doing the trills. And I think it was Pete Townsend. And he was like, at that point, I knew like, this dude's like the best guitar player on the planet.
Dude, that's how you know someone's badass.
They're just doing it without even like, they don't even know.
It's almost like the guitar is a piece of his body. Like, it's like, it's like an arm or a leg. It's just a part of him.
Extension. Same thing again with like Steve. You could tell like just the way he played it, the way his hands moved around it. It's like, man, I think I'm an okay guitar player, but guys like that, it's like, holy shit! Like
They're in their own league.
What's that difference? Like, what is it? A chromosome? Is it like something in your DNA? Is it just that you literally played 6 hours every day, all day? For 20 years? I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
He's in his own league. Can't play ball with him. All right, brother. Play that flamey Les Paul, man. Yeah, so that's a beautiful tune, man.
Right?
Oh man.
Yeah, just the chord progression alone.
Yeah. Mm. Oh, that's beautiful, man. I love it,
Chord
man.
progression to play to,
It's a
for sure.
beautiful chord progression. It's so pretty. It's almost like I get scared to attack it because I hear Jeff and I'm like, oh man, I can't do this. I'm almost like in a corner, but I love it and it's so pretty. And all you got to do is let your soul pour out into it, and you'll be fine. You know what I mean? We had a little bit of a mess up. I hope I can edit it out, but I hit like a wrong chord. He hit a wrong note. We got a little shaky because it's such a pretty tune, and you don't.
Plus, we're new to this. Don't hate yourself on it.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful. So I also, I want to talk a lot more about Leonard Skinner in another episode too, but I don't know how much time we have on this one. But Rosington, man, Gary Rossington was like,
it's literally one of the most iconic guitar, if not the most iconic guitar solo of all time. You never hear anybody say, "Play Whipping Post." You don't hear that. You hear "Play Freebird."
Yeah,
like that's the it's so popular. It was in Guitar Hero.
Yeah,
one of the most popular video games of all time. You hear it in the crowd. "Play Freebird."
It's insane, and Gary actually was the slide guy in that tune, and Alan did this big solo, but the two of them, like.
Well, there's three of them, right?
First there was Ed King popped in.
Yes.
After it was Alan and Garrett, and Ed King popped in. He was unbelievable. All three of them were unbelievable. Did you really?
Yeah, when I was down, he lives in Nashville when I was living down there.
Oh, that's so sick.
Nice guy.
I loved him, and then Ed left, and then Steve Gaines joined, and then the plane crashed. But Gary,
I just brushed over that.
I can't. The plane crash. I can't even like.
Before you were born, it took your breath away.
I can't even talk about it because it's just like those guys mean so much to me. And what would have happened? Like Ronnie Van Zant is one of my favorite lyricists of all time, just because you could picture it, you could feel it. It's simple. He's one of my top favorites just because it makes me feel something. I could connect to it.
It gave you that thing, that flutter in your tum-tum.
Yeah.
There's something here. I like this. I don't know what it is, but I like it.
Yeah, and like Gary was so simple and so beautiful and so melodic and so just complimentary to the song. There's a lot of people who play all over songs and they sound amazing, but this guy, he played the notes I wanted to hear. Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. And I just love the connection with Duane Allman. They were huge Allman Brother fans.
The Allman Brothers weren't fans of theirs, though, right?
Later on, but
you heard the story?
In the beginning, they were. Ronnie knew Duane. I heard, and they loved each other. But I think later on, but tell me the story. Tell me what you heard.
I don't know how true it is. Just what I've heard. That when Skynyrd was kind of making a buzz, right? They're on the scene. They were coming up to like Duane and Greg, and they were like, "These guys, they're like the new version of you," kind of, right? Because it's probably like a 6-year gap from the time like the Allman Brothers album comes out, right? The first one.
Yeah.
Was it Idlewild South? Is it their first album? I think. Or is it just called the Allman Brothers?
Yeah, they had the Allman Joys, then they became the Allman Brothers. They had the Idlewild South album. Yeah, that first album in like it was like 69. Yeah, I know.
And and apparently they went to see because they were playing somewhere. Leonard Skinner was playing somewhere, and the Allman Brothers like walked out like 15 minutes in. They were like, "These guys are nothing like us. They're not even close to us."
Oh boy!
And
Competition.
that's the story that I've heard. I don't. Yeah, it could be jealousy. I don't know. That's the story that I heard. I don't know how true it is. It's
But
just
you
one
know
of those,
what?
like, stupid kind
Do
of things,
you want to know something? I think they were all in competition, but you want to know something? In those days, they thought that Skinner and Allman Brothers were too similar. They're two different bands.
Not at all.
Like Allman Brothers had the jazz and the blues kind of fusion, and then you have Skinner that was rock
They're a
and
rock-
roll.
they're a rock band, yeah.
They took country kind of mixed in there too,
I agree with that 100%.
but they took Southern rock to a more heavier rock.
Yeah.
And I want to make that clear because a lot of people try to mix the two, and I don't like mixing the two. The one thing I do mix is that those guitar players
They're all great.
loved Duane and Dickie.
Oh, yeah.
Also loved Johnny Winter.
Oh,
Alan Collins loved
how much
Johnny
you love
Winter.
Johnny
And
Winter.
I'm a Johnny Winter
I'm sure
nut.
when we keep doing this podcast, we're gonna hear a lot about.
There's a lot of
There's
Johnny.
always gonna be a Johnny Winter drop somewhere.
I-
somewhere on the podcast.
Everybody knows I'm a Johnny Winter psychopath, but I'll tell you what, Johnny, the reason why I get so emotional about Johnny is because he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's not.
Oh, he totally should be.
He should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I want to
Nothing
make a
else
shout
but
out to him.
Frankenstein, right?
Well, see,
Kidding,
Frankenstein was Edgar Winter.
I'm just messing
All right.
with you. I know.
That's the thing I get messed up at. It was like Edgar Winter. No. Johnny,
I know.
I'll go into that whole thing one day. But the thing is, like,
We're just teasing next week. Don't even worry about it.
I just feel like those guitar players emulated them and took it to another level. Like, Johnny Winter was hard rock and roll. You got Duane and Dickie doing, jazz and blues fusion.
Old jazz and blues stuff,
And
yeah.
Skinner took it and said, I'm going to take little pieces of that and make harder Southern rock.
It's that Leonard Skinner. I would definitely call a Southern rock band. I know a lot of people call the Allman Brothers Southern rock. I wouldn't call them a Southern rock band. They're a blues band.
That's the
That's
thing.
really what they are.
You know what I dig into it is when you hear Duane play on the Wilson Pickett "Hey Jude" record.
Yeah.
You've heard that.
course, yeah.
Any Duane lover, and Tyler's a huge Duane guy too. So
Where's my slide? No, I'm just kidding.
you could borrow mine.
There.
I like basically those riffs that he goes into in that second. Everybody listen to it when they do the big vamp at the end. Duane does those licks that are kind of those Freebird, that Alan kind of took to another place too. And I feel like that was the sounds that people connect with Southern rock. Southern rock was that tone, those kind of riffs. They kind of, morphed the two in that way when really it was just that those guitar players were
They're
influenced by
R&B. A
Duane.
lot of them are R&B riffs on that album, at least. A lot of it's like the Muscle Shoals stuff, early, 60s.
But Duane turned the knob a little bit.
Yeah.
People are like, whoa, like that sound. It's almost like he's putting rock and roll into an R&B record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how all the things connect. And I think a lot of people, what people get twisted is the look. You know what I mean? Like
long hair and the big mustache,
Southern-
and everything. Yeah, they're both from down
Yeah.
south. Yes. I never really classified the Allman Brothers as a Southern rock band. I mean, they are a blues band. It's like calling like the Black Crowes a Southern rock. They're not. I mean, they're
Yeah.
a rock. They're a blues band who are taking influences from like old school blues guys from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, jazz guys, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Like you said, turning that notch up a little bit, maybe adding a slide guitar in there,
yeah.
and getting a crazy good singer, to change it up a little bit. That's all it is.
That's the thing, and anyway, rest in peace, Gary. I have a lot more,
We'll talk about it next week.
yeah, there's a lot more. Me and Tyler can go off, man.
We can.
This is why I wanted to make a
We're
podcast.
gonna cut it to an hour a week, but we're gonna go.
We'll try.
Every week we're gonna have somebody. Next week it's gonna be Gary Rosington. I went to Jeff Beck this week. You can go into Gary Rosington.
Yeah,
next week.
exactly.
And the week after that, we'll go into Peter Green on my end because I think that's another guy.
Ooh, Peter Green.
You haven't really dove into the way you should.
Yes, and I love
Holy shit.
Peter, and I want to be. See, this is the cool thing about this: inspiring each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because
I never really listened to Johnny Winter before I met you.
really
I
see that's
I
cool.
know who he is. I saw him. I saw them rickety him out on stage when he was like 70 something, and he sat there hunched over like he was a corpse with like strings on him.
That's the thing, you know.
Like when you listen to him play back in the 70s, and it's like, holy shit, man, this guy was like hard, man. Like,
hardcore.
He was like that intensity, just wailing on the guitar.
Unbelievable. And you know, he also had vision issues. He couldn't really see his guitar. He was almost like I wouldn't say blind, but he had to get real close, you know, to sign autographs. Like you could see in a lot of the videos, like he kind of couldn't see well. So it's amazing that he could play like that. It's almost like Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles. Like, how do you know your hands are going there? But the thing with Johnny and Dwayne Allman were kind of in a competition too. I remember seeing this thing like Dwayne Allman watched Johnny and was like, I could cut him and slide. You know what I mean? But, you know, don't get it twisted.
Though, man.
Different styles. Yeah. Different styles. Like when I see Dwayne, I think
Dwayne was making love. Johnny Winter was fucking. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
Johnny's just like loud. He used to say loud and nasty. Just loud and nasty. He was, but he was precise, and he was at. So it's just interesting. Like there's a competition among players that is beautiful because it pushes each other. It's almost like Brian Wilson and Paul McCartney. Like those guys were like, man, you came out there. I'm going to come out with a better record. And if you listen to those 60s, mid 60s, it's like, who do I like more?
Harmony. What's going on here? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like, you know,
you're 100% right on that. And I can, because I grew up, one of my best friends growing up, Sean, amazing guitar player. He plays in the Almost Brothers now.
Oh, dope.
Like me and him, we were best friends, but we had that healthy kind of competition where it was like, oh, you did that? Cool. I'm going to do this. You did that? You learned that? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it better. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're doing that? Okay, I'm going to learn to play slide then. You know, like,
yeah.
One of those things where we were always.
But it made you guys great players.
Yeah, it definitely.
And you
if I didn't have him, I wouldn't probably even be playing guitar anymore.
And that's beautiful. And you know, it probably shaped you and shaped him who you were as guitar players. It's like me and my father. Like my father almost, you know.
That must be so much worse though than just being a friend. Like, Dad, I gotta kick his ass.
But you know, it really it turns into like it's almost like we are trying to impress one another.
Exactly.
And we're not really worried about the crowd. We're just like, oh, you're doing this, you're doing this. Now let's do a harmony. Can you get to me with this? Like it becomes this like, it's almost like, it's almost like basketball players. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like everybody wants to score. Everybody wants to make the shots. You know, it's like the Bulls, you know, everybody knew Michael Jordan was the king, but every one of them had something that was special. And so it's like that team wouldn't have been that team without
the team. I know. Right. I agree. Again, like
Tyler
when Sean and I would play, man, like it was always he would do like a riff that I really liked, and I'd be like, I'm gonna go home and learn that, and then I'm gonna do it next time.
Yeah.
In like the same spot.
That's yeah.
And I'm gonna kind of weave it in. You know?
But then you don't. Then there's a point. I don't know if you reach this point where you don't want to sound exactly like each other.
Of course, yes.
Then you're like, wait a minute, whoa, that's weird. I want to sound like this, and then that's when you become individualized. Yeah. That's the beautiful thing. Yeah. That's what Dwayne and Dickie did. You see, like Dickie Betts was, you know, he was so melodic, and he hit certain notes that were the right notes. Yeah. Dwayne did too, but they did it differently. And they had different tones. I cannot, like, I'm a psycho when it comes to, no, that's Dwayne. No, that's like, I can't hear anybody.
It's a hard, unless you're like
super into it. Like, yeah, I know.
Not tell who's playing.
I'm not going to get mad at anybody for not knowing. I'm just saying, when you get crazy enough as us, then you know. Yeah.
Like, when I first started listening to that stuff, the first Allman Brothers album I had was the Greatest Hits album. And I would go into my garage and crank it and listen. And I was like, I knew that Dickie and Dwayne were the two guitar players. I didn't know who the hell was playing what.
Yeah.
You know, and then eventually it was like, okay, yeah, obviously that's Dickie, and obviously that's Dwayne. You know, and I'm not talking about slide and String,
No,
you know,
no.
they're
We're
just
talking about playing.
like Liz Reed, and like
Yep.
they're playing, and it's like, okay, now I get it. You know, Dickie's doing a lot of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing,
You
like,
know,
those, like, kind of triple, like, at the front. Yeah, exactly.
you know, and then it's just when
Yeah, and Dwayne, yes.
you know what I mean.
And you get to finally hear it, and yeah. But,
You know?
but yeah, that's again, like with me and Sean, that's exactly what it was. We grew up playing together. He was a big Led Zeppelin fan, and I was a big like Cream fan, and we would always argue about who was better, and you know this and that, and like.
I'm a Cream guy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm a Cream guy.
Jimmy Page is a great player. I'm not taking anything
But
away
it's
from him.
different.
But it's different.
And you know what? So that's but Dwayne, I don't know if you've listened to some of his interviews. I like to listen to him. He's only very few.
Yeah, there's like 3.
There's
4
like
of them, if that.
if that. It might be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But he talks about, he's like, it's different. He's like, it's kind of alienated to me. He's like, but it's really cool, and so the way he said it, and it was like, I think he was also talking about the Yardbirds. It's like, he's like, man, I don't know what that is. He goes, it's cool, but it's not my thing. And that's the thing. Everybody has their own thing that they like. That's the thing. Like Jimmy Page, he had this, I feel like he liked to perfect his records. See, Dwayne liked the live setting. Dwayne was like, he said it in an interview. He's like, I hate the pressure of the machines and this and that. He's like, you could really hear our sound captured in a live setting. And like Jimmy Page was more like, man, I want to perfect this record.
To be perfect and live.
Yeah, live. He's just like, I just want to party and have fun.
Yeah.
It was
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it was almost like that was kind of
that time. Can't argue with him in the 60s.
Yeah.
I just want to fucking play, get off, and do what I'm going to do after.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know. That's why I respect all different players. I don't bash anybody because they're all different and everybody loves each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's just.
It's all love. But I do have to agree with Dwayne.
But there's competition.
It's friendly competition. It's not like, I'm not going to beat you over the head with my guitar if you play a better solo than me. But it's like, if you play a better solo than me on this song, I am coming for you on the next one.
Right,
That's what I like about having 2 guitar players in a band. Because it's like, I think power trios is my favorite way to play. I love playing in a power trio. It's so much fun. It's so freeing. You can really do whatever. Everybody can kind of do whatever. But when you're in a bigger band and you have another guitar player, maybe like a horn player and a keyboard player, when those leads come up, we're all musicians. We all have that ego. So it's like,
oh yeah,
it's like, you play a fucking killer solo on a song, and maybe I don't play as well because like you go first and then you rip it, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna beat that, so I don't even really try. But I know the next time I'm fucking coming for you, and it's making me play harder, and it's making me like really get into that song more, which I like that about the bigger band kind of.
Yeah,
I guess, if you will.
You know what I like to do is make the audience feel something, and that's
always the underdog.
That's the thing. Yeah, sometimes it's like it's bigger than us. You want people to feel what you're feeling up there and get moved by it, because a lot of people, that get up there and they're not feeling it and they don't like what they do. I don't want to ever be that guy,
Well,
I want to.
Though.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Listen, we're there for the people that are coming to see us as much as we're there to like just have fun and play together.
Yeah.
You can't tell me as a guitar player that like.
Oh, I
you're
know.
Up there with somebody and somebody rips something, they're like.
Oh, I want to play better. I want to play better. Yeah.
Or like or even like I've played with like I've done. I've played songs with Jack Pearson, an Allman Brothers guy.
Oh, I want to talk about him quick, and I know it'll probably be long, but
it's okay.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going, but
I was gonna say like I've played with guys like that,
and
like because he would like sit.
He's unbelievable.
Guy's nuts. If you guys don't know who Jack Pearson is, look him up. He's probably the most underrated guitar player alive.
I was gonna say underrated.
I will die on that hill. So he would come up and do like Liz Reed with us, or like Blue Sky or whatever.
That's so cool.
And he would do his solo, and then I'd be like, I guess I'll take one. I mean, like I would like drive my guitar. Like, I would be hitting it so hard, trying to get so intense just to try to come close to that level.
But all you really have to do is play with feeling.
I know. And
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. But it's still, like, he's one of those guys.
Is in another league.
He's just on another level.
I love Jack Pearson. The first time I heard Jack Pearson I was watching a YouTube video, like way early, me playing guitar, and I was like, who is that? He was playing Slide on Statesboro Blues. Yeah.
With the overall,
yeah. That overall, that video.
Yeah.
And he's playing with
Dickie.
Dickie.
Only like 4 videos of him playing, with Dickie with the brothers in the 90s.
I'm like, 90s.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
Looked him up right away. He was playing with, it was like, I didn't get to see him until right after Greg Allman passed away. It was like that year. He played some tributes with everybody else. It was when Butch was still alive. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. I would take all videos of him, and all that stuff. I was like, dude, this guy's nuts.
He can do everything.
He's so good. I remember like calling my father. I'm like, Dad, he's coming into the city. You got to see this guy. Great player. Now you met Jeff Beck. I'm sorry, Jack Pearson. What was he playing? I know he played a Strat. What did he play through? Do you know? Do you know what kind of amp he played through?
Yeah.
I knew he'd
First
know
of
this
all,
shit.
Yeah. Well, I took lessons with him for about a year.
That's very cool.
And just to kind of, this will probably be the last kind of story we go through. But
yes,
every time I went into, he worked out of this, or taught at this little tiny, like, mom and pop acoustic guitar store in Nashville, that they only really sold acoustic guitars and banjos and mandolins, right?
Yeah.
And every time I went in there, he was always playing. And just kind of a funny little quick story, like, I remember asking him, like, he would show me things. He would show me, like, riffs, or he'd be like, here's a cool phrase. And I would kind of get mad at myself for not just being able to do it, like, after he showed it to me. Because I've been playing long enough. I felt like I was good enough where, like, I should just be able to do this. But, again, like, he's just on an insanely other level. And he would say, like, Tyler, he's like, listen. He's like, don't beat yourself up. He's like, I've been doing this for 35 years, or 40. I think he's in his late 50s, I want to say. Maybe early 60s. It's like, I've been doing this for 35 years, and I practice like 6 hours a day.
Wow.
And I remember stopping and being like, what do you mean 6 hours a day? He's like, 6 hours every day. I'm like, does that, like, if you have a gig, and, like, you go out and you do, because he only really plays down south. Now he'll play in Tennessee and Nashville. He'll go maybe an hour or two in any direction, but he doesn't really travel around too much. And he's like, no, that doesn't count. I'm like, so that means, like, you go home after a gig, and he's like, yeah, I'll play for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
When I get home, like, after a gig, you've gigged a lot. I've gigged a lot. Imagine doing like a 3-hour gig. You're tired. You go home, and then you're like, I'm gonna pick up the acoustic guitar and practice an open A tuning.
That's another level.
That's what I'm saying, and, like, that's what it is. Anyways, what he used, he first of all plays a Squier Strat, not a Fender Strat, a Squier Strat. And he does that.
Squiers sound badass. That was the first guitar I really learned on, was a Squier, just because I never beat the heck out of
it.
It
was like $100. It was just a guitar you got,
Yeah.
You could beat it up. And
going.
The reason that he plays it is because his friend, I think it was his friend's daughter, wanted to play guitar. So his friend asked him, like, hey, can you go pick out a guitar? And he found this, like, marble blue Squier Strat at Guitar Center with a rosewood neck. And he liked it so much, he bought it. That's the guitar that he mainly plays now. It was like a $150 guitar. And again, if you ever listen to him, his tone is ridiculous. So it shows you that it's not about the guitar or the pickups, because he didn't change anything on the guitar except for the volume pot. Maybe the tone pots, but I'm pretty sure it's just the volume control. He just changed it to get, like, a better kind of...
Really?
Like more of kind of an intricate kind of feel on, like, how loud the guitar gets. And he uses, I believe the amp company is called VVT. And it's like it's either a 112 or a 115 30-watt combo. And
I told you he knows his gear.
And it looks like a Blues Junior, but don't tell Jack that, because he would always correct me. It's not a Blues Junior, he would say. And I'm like, all right, cool, man, whatever. But I'm pretty sure the company's called VVT, I think, or VT. But it's like a 30-watt little combo. It's really no bigger than a Blues Junior, but
and I think he uses like one overdrive pedal, or not, or like a boost pedal. I don't even think it's an overdrive.
Like boosts a little bit when he solos
and
or
like
something.
they might make the pedal too, but that's it.
Yeah.
And he knows every tune.
He's
slide.
so that's the other thing. He does it in standard, but
He can
like
play it
so precise.
It's wild.
It's wild. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. You want to just do a little like fade out blues jam?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Hey, thanks, Roots of Rhythm. Tyler says we're gonna get 1,000 subscribers.
1 million by next year.
1 million.
By next year? Come on, man. I'm funny. You.
Yeah, I'm a doofus. We'll get it done.
We are gonna get it done. Because if we don't, then I don't know. But we're gonna make it. This is our first one. So, well, your second one, my first one.
Yeah, but Tyler's gonna be on a lot. Tyler's
Every week.
awesome, man.
I'm your new co-host.
Co-host.
You didn't know? I'm the new co-host.
Hell yeah. Yup.
Every week, bud.
Rock and roll,
Fun
man.
doing this.
Man, that's
I'm
awesome.
super down, and we're gonna jam a little bit.
Yeah, we'll do a little blues number.
What key do you want it in?
Ooh, that's a tough question. A, I guess?
I got you. I don't want.
There we go.
I don't want a slow blues. I want slow blues in A. See how this one sounds. You like that? Down. Oh, no.
The advertisements. Yeah. Take one, Tyler. Yeah. 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 Talk to me. Yeah. Woo! Ooh. Oh man, let me get one. Yeah, man, Roots of Rhythm. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until the next one, y'all. Rock and roll. Yeah.